government maintains there have been no deaths of patients that can be directly linked to blackouts. But now a 3-year-old has died as a direct result of a power outage. It's a terribly tragic story. She was on oxygen at home, but the inverter had failed and the family was unable to keep the oxygen machine on. Heidi Giokos, you're with us on this story this morning. I do not have children. I cannot imagine the terror of the family as they're watching their little one die in front of them because they can't keep the oxygen machine on. But this is the reality for people who do need this kind of assistance, and there's no power with which to do it.
Yes, Gareth, it's a really tragic story, and we have constantly asked governments as to whether or not there have been any direct links to any deaths linked to load shedding and the constant rolling blackouts. And government has always maintained that there has been none of that. But this particular case proves that load shedding really is killing people, and it's a very worrying story. We do know that a 3-year-old was unable to be put on oxygen because of the load shedding and because the inverter that keeps the oxygen running had died. But I just need to get more clarity, and we will be getting more clarity from Ward Councillor Ralph. Ralph, thank you so much for your time. Ralph, sorry, your surname is very difficult to pronounce. Thank you for your time. We do appreciate it. Let's just start with what exactly has happened. I just want to also emphasize the fact that we will be speaking to the parents a little later on today when they are ready. But maybe just tell us from your understanding what actually happened here.
All right, what happened is that first we had load shedding. Then we had power outages. You know, we always get technical problems after the load shedding, and especially in the Bromhof Northwold area lately. The inverter ran out of power. Thereby, they lost their oxygen machine. They then tried to put the girl onto bottled oxygen, and it wasn't enough. They rushed off to hospital, and on the way to the hospital, she died. Now, this is just the very last straw that actually breaks the camel's back. I've had an elderly person die as well because of lack of oxygen, and I've had reports from other councillors that they've also had people die in their wards. Now, I've got 11 retirement villages. I don't know how many of the elderly have died because I don't get informed of it. And this is the end. It cannot carry on, and somebody's got to be held liable. Now, response from Eskom was, oh, it's not our problem because we're not the distributor. City Power came with a lengthy explanation of why it's really not their problem neither. This goes beyond a joke. It is actually, as far as I'm concerned, with the amount of money that's being stolen from Eskom, and because of the load shedding causing this, the technical failures, it is in actual fact a situation now where culpable homicide has got to be added to all the charges that are being laid against people who are involved in corruption and stealing taxpayers' money. I've even been approached of one of our other political associations that are busy with a court case against Pravin Gordhan, and they want to include this in their court case as well. So really, this has got to go up. We're really taking it all the way up to our Shadow Minister for Electricity. It's going into Parliament, and it's not going to stop. This little girl's life should be remembered. I mean, she was only 3 years old. But if if we can actually accomplish something with this death, and that is something that her father actually, and I had a long discussion with him yesterday, and he's all for this. Let there be a memory for her, and let her life be worth something. People must actually wake up and say no more. We've reached the end of our tether, right? And we cannot carry on like this. The thieving must stop, and it's got to stop now.
I want to ask you, before we speak about what is going to be done to assist the family in terms of taking this further up, this area has always been known to be very problematic, especially when it comes to load shedding. The power doesn't come back on when it's supposed to. There's always issues with the substation, and this directly speaks to the death of little Nehemiah, because she basically was unable to stay alive because the inverter died because the electricity didn't come back on time. Have you taken up these issues to higher levels in terms of this particular area not being able to keep up with the load and the electricity just never coming back on when it's supposed to?
Look, I see the report backs also from Rudaport and other areas, even right down south into Lenasia and that. Problems are everywhere. But yes, I've taken it all the way up to the CEO, and I actually got her up, going at 9 o'clock at night even, in order to see that the teams perform. It is a huge issue. Yeah. The problem is that the system is failing. It's old. The problem is that it's not designed to be switched on and off. So, and for Eskom to say, oh, it's not our problem, I take exception to that. It is the root cause of everything. Because after the moment we have 4.5-hour outages, everything fails. And it fails because, first of all, the transformer plates are held in position by electromagnetic fields. The moment they switch back on, there is no electromagnetic field. Now you get a surge current coming through that they're trying to balance. The plates buckle, the transformer blows. And on top of it, you could just get a little nick in a cable with a surge current coming through, the cable blows. Also, we got the cable theft at the same time. Now, we had in Bromhof and Northwold, we had a 5-day outage. Now, that sounds bad, but I know of other areas that have been out for 7-10 days even. But really, it is unacceptable. Yeah. And we are fighting for this, and we really are taking it now. On the local issues, where we are upping our oversights and that on what is actually happening. I've got pictures of substations that I'm sorry, but my garage looks a mess, and it looks better than the substation. So
let's quickly speak about what you're going to be doing to assist the family in terms of any court action or taking this up further. I mean, they've lost their baby girl, which is, of course, really tragic.
Well, the first thing that's happened now is I've had somebody, one individual, come forward who wants to be unknown, and he came up with 3,000 rand to help the family. Other people are coming forward, and next week we are going to be looking into it because we want to give them a chance to get in touch with themselves first. But people are coming forward and helping with food, etc., etc. So the community is rallying. As far as I said already, I'm taking it all the way to Parliament. I'm taking it all the way up, and I'm getting assistance from other political groupings that are already busy with litigation, and they want to include it. So we cannot have this just being bypassed. And I even said already, in a couple of days' time, everything calms down again and whatnot, I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to keep going. And right now, I'm like a Rottweiler with a bone.
Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. That is Ralph Bitkow. There we go. Finally got the surname right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. He is, of course, the ward councillor here. And as I mentioned, Gareth, we will be engaging with the family. They did ask for just a couple of days to, process what has happened and deal with funeral arrangements. One can imagine how traumatic this is, but we will be speaking to them a little later on today to just try and get a sense of how they're dealing and what exactly happened.